Sometimes I notice this quiet feeling before anything even happens, before effort, before intention, almost like the body is already speaking, but very softly, not in words, more like a background noise, a slight heaviness in the chest, breath that doesn't feel fully open, a sense that I'm here, but not completely available. It's strange how normal this feels. We live inside it without questioning it. We stretch, drink coffee, scroll, distract ourselves. And yet that faint sense of residue stays. Not pain, not illness, just something unwashed. I might be wrong, but it feels like the body remembers things the mind has already forgotten. Every reaction, every suppressed moment, every time attention fractured, it all seems to leave a trace. And not emotionally only, physically, in posture, in breath, in digestion, in how easily the eyes soften or harden. This is where the Gheraṇḍa Saṁhitā quietly enters, not like a book, but like a mirror, not asking us to believe anything, just pointing gently toward the obvious thing we avoid noticing, that the body is not just flesh moving through space. It's a container, a filter, a channel, and over time, it gets clogged. What's interesting is that this text doesn't rush toward higher states or mystical fireworks. It starts almost humbly, with cleaning, with preparation, with removal, as if saying, before you talk about control, before you talk about awakening, first look at what's in the way. And that feels almost uncomfortable in today's world. We want expansion, not reduction. We want activation, not purification. But purification isn't dramatic. It's quiet. It's almost boring. And maybe that's why it works. I notice how control is usually misunderstood. We think control means force, tightening, holding, discipline with tension. But the more I observe my own body, the more it feels like true control only appears when friction disappears, when the breath doesn't fight the lungs, when the spine doesn't negotiate with gravity, when the mind doesn't argue with sensation. Control is cooperation, not domination. And purification suddenly makes sense, not as morality, not as ritual, but as clearing interference. The body starts to feel less like an object and more like a system, like plumbing. If something is blocked upstream, pressure builds elsewhere. Thoughts become restless. Sleep becomes shallow. Attention scatters. The Gheraṇḍa Saṁhitā feels less like ancient wisdom here, and more like a technician's manual written in poetic language. Not obsessed with belief, focused on function. How does energy move when pathways are open? How does awareness behave when the body stops resisting itself? There's a strange honesty in this approach. It doesn't flatter the ego. It doesn't promise transcendence without effort. It almost says, if you want to work with subtler forces, your instrument needs tuning. And the instrument is this: flesh, breath, nerves, fluids, heat, rhythm. You can't bypass it. You can't imagine your way around it. You meet it where it is. Dirty, conditioned, alive. Sometimes I feel that purification here isn't about becoming pure. It's about becoming sensitive again. When the noise drops, even slightly, small signals return. Hunger feels clear. Fatigue feels honest. Breath reveals its own patterns. And control emerges naturally. Not as command, but as alignment. The body begins to listen. And when the body listens, the mind follows. What's unsettling is realizing how much of our lack of control is just ignored maintenance. Like trying to steer a vehicle with jammed gears. The text doesn't shame this. It doesn't dramatize it. It just keeps pointing back. Clean first. Prepare the ground. Don't rush the seed. And that patience feels radical now. I notice something else too. As purification deepens, identity loosens. You stop saying, my body, as much. It starts to feel like a process instead of a possession. Breath happens. Digestion happens. Attention flows or doesn't. and you're more of a witness than a commander. Control without controller. That paradox sits quietly underneath the practices described here. You don't dominate the system. You get out of its way. And maybe that's the real preparation. Not for strength, not for power, but for responsibility. Because once the body becomes clear, other things begin to move. Sensations travel differently. Heat behaves differently. Awareness doesn't stay locked behind the forehead. It starts to spread, sink, rise. And suddenly the idea of deeper forces doesn't feel theoretical anymore. It feels close, almost impatient, like something waiting for the channels to be ready. I won't pretend to understand all of it. I don't think understanding is the point. The Gheraṇḍa Saṁhitā doesn't feel like it wants agreement. It wants attention, care, slowness, a willingness to start where you are, heavy, cluttered, human, and to clean, not to escape the body, but to finally trust it. And sometimes, in those quieter moments, when the breath feels smooth and the body isn't arguing anymore, a strange curiosity appears. Not about doing more, but about what else might already be moving underneath. Something coiled, dormant, precise, not emotional, almost mechanical in its intelligence. As if purification and control were never the end. Just the clearing of space for a deeper kind of motion to reveal itself on its own. When the system is ready,